Good morning. My name is Jeovanny Soto, and I'm here with the Lemke Project. This morning, we have Sergeant Donald Dorman here with us. Sergeant, why did you move here to Arkansas, and what are some goals you've wanted to accomplish?
Well, I just moved here 3 weeks ago. I was assigned to move here. I actually requested to go to Florida. My assignment was to take over as the center leader for the Fayetteville Recruiting Center. I'm in charge. I have 3 offices. I have one down here on 6th Street. I have one at the mall, and then I have one up in Rogers. And I have 13 recruiters that work for me. They go out to the 25 local high schools to recruit the best and the brightest of America's youth.
Where are you from exactly?
Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
And is it a small town or?
It's a very small town. It's the Amish capital of the world. I grew up very, very poor. I grew up in a trailer, moved around a lot. About every 3 years when we couldn't pay the bills, we moved someplace else. And I did that pretty much all through high school.
So, growing up in a small town, how did you get involved in the Army?
In all honesty, I was down on my luck. My girlfriend had moved to Hawaii, and she said, "You need to figure out a way to get here." I was a 19-year-old maintenance man. I graduated high school when I was 17. I had worked for a year and a half, and I wanted to matter. I wanted to help people. I wanted to change lives. I wanted to be a priest at one point, but I knew at some point I wanted to have a family, so that wasn't going to work out for me. When I went and enlisted into the service, I wanted college money because my parents told me I was too dumb and too poor to go to college. And I knew that the Army offered a way to go to school. At the time, I didn't realize what it meant to put on this uniform and represent the flag and the country. But once I had the uniform on, I was in basic training, I learned who I was as a man. That's why I kept the uniform on.
So joining in the Army, what were some goals that you had set to yourself? That you're going into battle blind because you really didn't know what it was like.
Right. I didn't expect a war to break out, I can tell you that. I joined before September 11th, and my goals basically were just I wanted to be successful. I didn't want to fail. And that's because that's all I heard. You're going to fail. You won't make it. Don't hurt yourself. You're good where you're at. You're a good human being. Just stay where you're at. Be a maintenance man. I wanted more. I wanted to be able to buy my own house. I wanted the American dream, the big house and the white picket fence. I wanted to have kids. I wanted my kids to have what I didn't have as a young man. I wanted to make sure that they had everything they needed and some of the things that they wanted. Now maybe they have too much of the things that they want.
Now, a lot of seniors that are coming out of high school and deciding if they want to go to college, but if they don't have the financial needs, and they think of military as a choice, one of the problems that, for example, myself, that I'm a senior, is trying to get your parents to go with your decision. So what would you say to the parents of letting their children look into the military?
First of all, I would make sure that I have you and the parents sitting together. And I would look at you and I would say, why do you want to be in the service? Okay, because I can tell your parents all these great reasons, all the college money that you're going to get, the support system that you're going to get, the personal confidence that you're going to get. You're going to get better grades because you were a soldier and you have pride in who you are when you go to school. Okay, my grades in college right now are a lot better than they were when I was in high school. I had no personal responsibility for my actions when I was in high school. And now I don't feel like I represent not just myself, but the Army, my family, my children. You have this sense of respect and confidence in yourself, so you want to do well. When it comes to trying to help a young man or woman tell their parents, hey, I want to be a soldier, it's about you need to express to them why you want to be a soldier. And if it's because you want to matter and you want to make a difference, you don't want them to pave your way. You want to make your own road. You want to go your own direction. For me, I think that's the most. We come across parents who say, well, I've saved up for college for him since he was 2. He doesn't need the college money. My question is, but he wants to do it on his own. why not let him do it on his own? You're there to help him as a parent, to guide and mentor, just like I am. You know, I'm a stranger when I come into the house. They see the uniform and they hear the term recruiter, and they immediately get defensive. They put walls up. They think I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. Okay, and the first thing I say is, the Army's not all flowers and fairy tales. Okay, you're going to have bad days. But regardless of whether or not you enjoy the Army or don't like the Army, you will be better for being in the Army. So, and I honestly believe that.
So if you were to join the Army, let's say, what would be the process of joining the Army?
The first thing you have to do is you have to sit down and do an interview. Talk to a recruiter to make sure that this is what you want to do. There are some people that come in and they have this idea of what the Army is and how the process works, and you know, they think it's like buying a car. You know, well, I want the red one with the big wheels and the spoiler on the back, and it's not like that at all. You come in, and the first thing we have to do is we have to qualify you. We have to make sure that you don't have any major law violations, because you can't be in the service with major law violations. We have to make sure that you meet the height and weight requirements, that you're physically capable of being in the service. And, you know, if you're overweight or underweight, we don't want to put you in harm's way. We have to make sure that you don't have any major medical issues. For example, if you're allergic to bees, we can't put you in the Army. And it's not because we don't care about you. It's not that we can't give you the EpiPen that you would need for training, because there are people who are already in the Army that discover they're allergic to bees that are in the Army. But to deliberately and knowingly put you in that situation, and then find a soldier who's in the woods 45 minutes from a hospital and he broke his EpiPen, that's a silly way to die for your country, right?
Right.
So we have regulations that say, hey, if you're allergic to bees or certain foods, you can't be in the Army. If you have certain injuries, pins or screws in your joints, and it prevents you from raising your arms, you know, or being able to pull a trigger, if you can't see, you're not going to function well as a soldier. Okay, we could put you in a position where you can endanger yourself or someone else, and that's not fair to you. So we qualify you morally and physically, and then once you pass those qualifications, we give you what's called a practice test for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It is a job placement test. You need to score a 31 or higher on the test currently to enlist in the service for the Army. The different branches, we all use the same test, and different branches set the test score a little higher or a little lower depending on their needs. Once you pass the test, it's just a matter of making sure that what you told us was correct and you were honest and forthright. We send you to Little Rock, where the military entrance processing station is, and that's where you raise your right hand and take the oath of enlistment.
So there's some people that they're emotionally unstable,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say that they join the military. Being in action, how could you say people could control that? Does the Army have certain classes that they have for soldiers of how to emotionally keep themselves from becoming unstable during action, or how do they help? Like, how do they help you?
That's a two-part question. Okay. First, remember I said we have to medically qualify them. If someone's mentally unstable, we can't enlist them in the service. Okay. For example, if you're taking any current medications for depression, you have any history of depression, stuff like that, you're not going to be eligible for service. Now, once a soldier enlists in the Army, okay, any number of things can happen. There are programs out there for soldiers who find themselves in positions that they can't handle themselves. There's counseling on all kinds of levels, and you can go to counseling for drug and alcohol abuse. You can go to counseling for depression, marriage counseling, anger management. Not that soldiers necessarily have all that, all right, but it is available should it happen. It is not something that happens regularly, but it does happen. Most commonly is the post-traumatic stress syndrome, and there's actually special programs that have been created because of the war on terror in the last 12 years that are there to help soldiers, and they're actually going back and saying, hey, some of these Vietnam veterans, some of these Korean veterans, some of the World War II veterans, they need this training too, because it was generations ago. It was just suck it up, drive on. And now they're realizing like, hey, we can't do that. They need extra help. And the Army offers that help. And some guys, they end up getting out of the service. They need that much help that they need to get out, and the Army takes care of them. Some guys get to stay. They get the counseling they need, and they get to stay in the Army.
So after you joined the Army and you did boot camp, how long was it until you went out and did active duty or overseas?
It was about a year and a half or so.
How did you take that? How did you respond to that?
I was scared out of my boots. You ever seen the movie We Were Soldiers? They get off the helicopter and everybody shoot, and you're like, wow, that's what we were all expecting. But when we landed in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and the gate of the plane goes down, you got all your gear on, you're all lined up just like a movie, and you go to step off, and you look around, and it looks like a normal place. You're just on the airfield. And you're like, okay, and there's no bombs going off, there's nobody shooting at you. You're ready for it. You don't know what to expect. You're scared, and it was just like, hey, come on over here. And an Air Force guy, he took us all down to the reception area, basically, got us squared away. Because when you're overseas, the Air Force, the Army, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, we all work together, so we're all one family. It's really in recruiting that you kind of see the separation of the services. And we compete against each other. But you better believe when we're overseas, we're all one family. We all fight for each other. It doesn't matter if it says Coast Guard or Army or Marine Corps on your uniform. You're brothers and sisters.
So when you were in Afghanistan, what was it like? What was Afghanistan like?
Afghanistan, believe it or not, is really pretty. In Kandahar, we were surrounded by the mountains, and there's in the one side of the base, there's a vineyard, and they're actually known for growing grapes and whatnot. They actually have a lot of poppy fields. A lot of the world's opium comes from Afghanistan, and a poppy field is actually very pretty. It's a shame it creates drugs, but it's very, very pretty. The people are super sweet, despite what you may think. They're very shy. They don't look anybody in the eye. Over there, it's kind of a sign of disrespect or dominance. So the country itself is very pretty.
So when let's say, for example, that are you guys in units, or how does it work when you guys go out to examine, or maybe go out in your I don't know what they call them. Are they called units?
Yeah.
So
I was with the 202nd Military Police Company when I deployed. Our responsibility, we took over a prison in Kandahar, and we later moved to Bagram to take over a prison. And we were short on units. Okay, the base itself was. I was attached to the 25th Infantry Division and the 101st Airborne Division. 6 months through, those two divisions changed command. So I was with the 25th for the first 6 months, and the second 6 months I was attached to the 101st. And that's the major command. Those are the people that are calling the shots. My unit was sent in support of that unit. And there was a lot of us over there at that point. And we did everything from run the prisons to perimeter security to what's called protective service detail. We had some guys did that. And then we transported high-value targets, guys that we had captured, from one prison to another so they could do interviews and talk to them about what they knew so we could help the forces on the ground.
So as what I know is the language of Afghanistan is Pushtun, right?
Pashto?
It's Pashto?
Pashto.
Pashto. Yeah. So did some of the soldiers that were in your unit know Pashto?
We learned basic.
You learned basic.
Commands. It's been a long time. But we learned basic commands. So. Okay.
And let's say that you guys were trying to take over a prison, and some people would surrender. Like, sort of, how would they do it if they were like the soldiers?
Well, we worked in the actual prison, so the detainees that we had there were already there. We didn't have to do anything to them. The forces that left the base, okay, if they went into a town and they deemed somebody dangerous or they needed to interview, they would detain them, bring them back to us, okay, We would take their clothes, we would put them in a prison uniform. We clean them up, we give them a shower, show them how to brush their teeth, show them how to shower, because a lot of them have never taken a bath. We cut their hair, except for their beards. Their beards, it's a religious thing, you can't cut their beards. But we shave their heads, and it's not a demoralizing thing, or it's not meant to be. Same reason we shave our heads when we go to basic training, it's a hygiene thing, okay, because they're in close quarters and we don't want them to get sick. So we put them through that. We give them a cell, we give them a blanket, they get a Quran if they're Muslim. And we put them in their cell, and then the doctor or the medic will come by and will check them out, make sure they don't have any issues, and we take care of them until they're either released or moved someplace else.
So when you were in Afghanistan, did you have any obstacles that you had to go through? Let's say that not in the word dispatch, but let's say that you were fighting, you were in battle, and you had to do something that mentally you didn't know if you were fit to do.
There was early morning in August. I was on perimeter security. I was on a tower by myself, and we took mortar fire that landed about 200 meters from my location. It's really far. If you don't do our job 200 meters, you think, wow, that's really close. It's not. For us, it's not. I happened to be coming down the stairs on my tower, and the explosion went off, and it straight up startled me. It scared me. And I jumped off the tower to get into the bunker. When I landed, I broke my hip. It dislocated. I popped it back in. That hurt worse than landing. And then I spent the next 4 months trying to suck it up and drive on. It didn't work out too well for me. By the time we redeployed in December, I was getting pretty bad. And in February, they discovered that I had actually broken my hip, and I was tearing a bunch of stuff up. And they put me through physical therapy, and they tried to get me better, and I was actually getting worse. They decided I needed to have surgery. When they did the surgery, it didn't go as planned. I was supposed to be in and out in a couple hours, and I spent about a week in the hospital. They had to cut me open. This is what I call my dead leg. They cut a nerve that goes around your hip flexor muscle. So I don't have any feeling here anymore. And they told me I'd never walk again, that I'd have a cane, and that I was going to be discharged from the Army. And this is over the course of about a year and a half. I got lucky. The Secretary of the Army, Peter Guerin, came to Fort Lee, Virginia, which is where I was stationed at the time. And I got to ask him a question, and I asked him why I couldn't stay in the Army. Because I knew there were guys that were losing limbs, and they were getting prosthetics. They could stay in the Army. I limped. Why couldn't I stay in the Army? I said I would not fail at a human resources job. And he agreed with me, and he gave me orders to recruiting, and that's actually how I became a recruiter. The time the Army had revamped its slogan to Army Strong, and I'd used that in my defense and why I wanted to stay in the Army. I said, look, you're telling us that we're Army Strong. This is what Army Strong is. You said I'm not going to get any better. Watch me. And within a year, I lost the cane, and I was able to move around. Now I still have a little bit of a limp, but I work real hard to make sure that people don't see it. I don't let it hold me back.
So how did your family react to you being injured and having to come back from Afghanistan?
Not very well, but they survived. It was a struggle for my wife. The day I went in for surgery, my wife was scheduled to have our second child, Zoe. 3 days later, she was going to be induced. I don't remember much of it, but I think I was only there a day or two when she went into labor. I didn't get to see my daughter get born. I fully expected to be there. What I do know is they moved me from the Portsmouth Naval Hospital to the Richmond Hospital where my wife was, and I laid in a bed next to her for about a week, trying to recover while she was there recovering herself because she had a C-section. The Army takes care of you, and while it wasn't the best situation to be in, I wouldn't change it, because I wouldn't be the man, the leader I am today had I not gone through what I went through. And there's a lot of guys that went through a lot worse.
So now that you're back home, do you feel like you have more of a connection with your family? You have more time to be with them than, do you feel like the connection was getting lost while you were in active duty?
I don't think I have more of a connection. I think I appreciate the little things a lot more. When you're separated from someone you care about like that, where it's not necessarily your decision. When you join the Army and you go to basic training, that's your decision to leave. And I didn't necessarily come from a great home. You know, my parents loved me. They just didn't want to see me fail. Okay, so their version of supporting me was making sure I didn't get hurt, and by not getting hurt, they never pushed me to be better. They said, "Hey, you're good where you're at." When you have a family, it's you push yourself to be better, okay? And sometimes you take for granted that, hey, I'm in college. I don't have time to go play baseball, Donnie. That's my son's name. You know, I don't have time to play video games. I don't have time to help you with your homework. You know, I'm trying to provide for your family. And then when I came back from Afghanistan, it was, I need to do this. I'll just stay up late, get 4 hours of sleep, and we'll do the family stuff first. So I definitely have a better appreciation. Recruiting is the hardest job I've had in the Army, hands down. I can do everything right. I can explain all the benefits to the Army. I can talk to the parents. I can talk to the young man or woman, and they can still look at me and say, you know what, I don't think this is for me. And it's, as a soldier, as you're trained, and my mission is to put people in the Army. As a soldier, you're trained not to fail your mission. Okay, a lot of us look at it. I started out in the infantry. If you fail, it's because you're dead or dying. Mm-hmm. You know, otherwise we will succeed. You know, in recruiting, you can do everything right and still not succeed, and it's a tough pill to swallow when you know that whoever you're talking to would greatly benefit from the Army, and they don't take that opportunity. And that's really what it is. It's an opportunity. And it's not like driving, it's not buying a car. You can't test drive the Army. Okay, I can't give you my jacket, okay, and let you walk around with it and go, oh, this is what it's like being in the Army. It's not like that. Everybody's Army experience, everybody's service experience, it's not just the Army. Everybody's service experience is just a little bit different. Everybody does it for a little bit different reason. Like I said, for me, it was I wanted to matter. I wanted to help people. You know, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make sure that my family that I decided I wanted to have in the future had the things that they needed. And I've accomplished all of those goals. You know, I bought a house when I was 22. And I don't say that to brag, but when you grow up in a trailer and every couple of years you have to move because, you know, money was tight and they couldn't pay the bills, you know, or you lose the trailer and you go from one house to another house to another house. Buying a house at 22 was a big deal. I sold that house and I bought another house. And I was real proud of myself, and I was high on my horse, and then the housing market crashed. Okay, so I still have that house in Virginia that I pay on, and sometimes it's a burden. But I'm still proud that I was able to do it. I haven't lost it. I've still managed to maintain. You know, like I told you earlier, it's not all flowers and fairy tales. You know, and I'm try to be pretty cut and dry as a recruiter, so the families understand what it means to be a soldier.
So for all of you that are wanting to considering joining the military or are having financial struggles, Sergeant Dorman here has given us the way of his life, of how he achieved to become the man he is today. How he was saying, what he was saying before was that the suit he's wearing, if you wear it, doesn't define who, like, doesn't define that, oh, this is how I'm going to feel if I'm the Army. The Army is, or the military, I can say in general, is something more bigger, something that has more to give you. So if the military has been an option, I suggest that you contact one of your advisors, one of the recruiter officers, and have a talk with them. Maybe you have something personal that you want to talk to them about. So this is Jeovanny with Lemke Project. Thank you very much for watching us.